Hello and welcome to my beginner's guide to Mega Man. This tutorial is a continuation of the basic tutorial and it's aimed toward intermediate runners who knows the basic run pretty well. On this summary you can see what I will cover in this tutorial, and most of it will be explained under the premise that you already know the basic run. If there is something in specific you would like to know about, you can use the timestamps below in the video description. And as always, if there's anything you would like to know that isn't covered in the tutorial, don't hesitate to send me a message. So let's get on with the tutorial. First off, I'm gonna tell you about ladder hunch jumps. So normally when you get up a ladder, you just jump like this. But actually, as soon as you reach the peak, you can see that Mega Man is starting to do this weird motion where he like hunch over the top of the ladder. You can jump slightly before you reach the peak, so you would jump here at once. This is a very small time gain, but it's a time gain nonetheless, and you do it so many times in the run that it will add up. Another way to optimize your movement is to make jumps after taking damage. So if we cancel the knockback on the big guy here, we can make a jump to get up to top speed at once. If you jump during a normal movement like walking around, you will actually slow down a little, but it's faster to get up to top speed by jumping than simply just walking it off. So it would look like this. Yeah. You can also notice this when entering boss corridors. So if we would walk into the boss corridor, if you pay close attention you can see that Mega Man stops before starting the walk. You could jump to neglect this, but even better is if you jump through the corridor. Then you will fly down and be up to top speed at once. The one exception to this is on Iceman stage. Since you slide on ice, it's actually faster to walk through the corridor than to jump. The way drops are programmed in this game causes your inputs to reset. That means if I buffer a jump command and walk into these ammunitions, for example, Mega Man will jump twice without me having to press any buttons really. There are several uses for this in the run. I'm not gonna talk about them right now. I just want you to know what might cause your Mega Man character to work weirdly when you pick ammunition and other drops up. An example to like show how you can use this is that if I were to charge a beam here, I could jump into the first ammunition to drop and place the beam, and then buffer a jump input for the second ammunition, like this. Improved beam utilization will be something we look at throughout the whole run. In some cases it's to speed up and play faster, and in other cases it's just gonna be to conserve beam ammunition. The way we're gonna do this is to perform beam jumps, and it basically means place a beam and land on it in the same motion, so in one jump. You will practice and get better at beam jumps from the whole run, but if you want to do specific beam jump practice, this is a good screen to do it. It's the screen before the boss corridor on Elec Man stage, and we have two beams here where you can try to jump over them without taking damage. It would look something like this. You can also do it from this side. In Catman stage we can gain a few seconds by doing a corner jump here. You could tiptoe and position yourself over here. I'm gonna zoom in so you can see properly. It's perfectly aligned with the square black thing on his foot. Over here, you can see there. And if you stood here, you could just press left and right at the same time and then jump up like this. Since the punishment for failing isn't that severe, you could just try a second time, and if you wouldn't get it the second time, you could simply just go the normal route over here. The way to a good Cutman fight is to keep him in iframes as soon as you can, as quickly as you can. And to do that, we're gonna jump as soon as Mega Man passes the crack between these boulders, and we're gonna press A and B at the same time to buffer a jump and a shot. This is gonna hit Cutman every time, because when you jump, he will jump. As soon as you pass the cracks, just as long as Cutman hasn't reached this position, so a part of Mega Man can still be on the crack, but as long as most of Mega Man has passed the crack, you will always hit him. So it's gonna look something like this. And after that, you can just keep on doing the normal fight, but try to time the shots more to the end of the iframes. So you keep track of the iframes and you throw a volley of 3 shots. In Elec Man stage, we can gain some time by taking the left route here at the Yoka blocks. We would jump up and use the blinking eyes as a cue again and wait for the last Yoka block and jump up. And when you reach this area, we could take advantage of drop input buffering here. I'm just gonna show you once without, and then with buffering A here. When we reach this position, we could go for a corner jump at once, but I recommend going for the tiptoe at first, because the punishment for falling down here is very severe. So you would place yourself at this position, and I'm gonna zoom in here so you can see properly. Mega Man is aligned with, let's see, there's this tile here, and you can also watch his left foot. The black sprite is aligned with the white one just below, like this. And then you just have to press jump and right to get up, like this. I'll do it one more time here, just to show you tiptoe out and up and right. Drop shots are not restricted to the Buster. You can do them with any weapon and with the magnet beam. So normally when you would climb up and shoot, Mega Man stops. But if you would do a drop shot, you can get up on the beam really fast. We're gonna take advantage of this and do a faster strategy on the next screen here. Normally we would shoot a beam to the left, take damage and jump up. But if we do a drop shot beam, we can get on the beam and jump up, take damage on the second beam, and that's actually faster. We can also take advantage of the drop shot beams in the Elec Man corridor climb. When you're waiting for the last energy beam, you can place a drop shot beam and then jump away from it to gain some time. The reason you only do it on the last one is because the first and the second beam would require you to wait for the next beam, which is a lot trickier than simply doing it on the last one. Bringing Elec Man down with the select pause glitch is very safe and consistent. The downside though is that you must manually time the iframes. So if you want to, you can fight Elec Man without using the select pause to speed it up just slightly. And to do that, you would let the first scissor hit him twice, and after firing the first one, you walk back towards the wall or the block and wait for him to run towards you. When he's like in his running animation, you just shoot at him and let the magic work itself. And at the end of the airwalk in Iceman stage, there's actually a buffer zip wrap we can do. And to have enough ammo for that, we have to pick up this magnet beam refill in the middle of the airwalk. When you drop down here, you have to be careful so you don't hit these bullets that will randomly fly on the screen. You will get hit from time to time, so be prepared with that knockback cancelling. And remember to cancel out the ice physics when you land here with a neutral jump after the knockback cancel, so you don't fall off. Okay, so also remember that if you pick up the drop while charging a beam, the beam will automatically be placed. From here, we're gonna jump up on the beam and place 2 more beams to get enough height to make the buffer. You don't have to be this high like I am now. You can actually be lower. Let's see if I can get slightly lower. The height isn't that important. The visual cue is very important though. I'm looking at the cloud over here. This is my visual cue. When it reaches the edge of the screen, that's when I do the buffer. So I'm gonna go there just to show you a few more pixels. Here's where I would jump. And you can see it's a good one here between these blocks with Mega Man sprite. You have one at the health bar here with that cloud. You also have the score bar around here. As with any other buffer, there are many visuals you can pick from. Just select one, you have an easy time tracking, and then when you reach it, you buffer B, A, and right at the same time until the beam is placed. Then you do the same thing as any other buffer, just press left to zip and then jump to wrap. Okay, so let's see if we can do it on the fly here. And this one, I'm gonna leave it at this height just to test if this is enough. And it was, but let's do it slightly better. You can delay this one slightly longer, like that, to give yourself a little more of time. And then you just buffer another beam here and do another wrap. And you're down here, despawning the big guy. In Fireman stage, we're gonna introduce additional beam jumps to speed the stage up. And the first ones are right off the bat here. And then you have 2 more on the next screen here. And a third one. Then you can also introduce a drop shot to get up here faster. In the basic route, we did a long charged beam here to do the buffer zip wrap, but we can speed it up with a short beam here. So we could simply just jump off from here and place a beam jump and then do the buffer. It's both faster and we save a beam. Beating Fireman without the select pause glitch would be very difficult and you would probably not gain time. What we can do though is get closer to the middle of the stage so we can jump and grab the orb in the air when we finally beat him. To do this, you would have to fire 2 shots instead of 1, and in between the first and the second one you would have to let Fireman walk away at the same time as you hold the right directional D-pad to get closer as you select pause. The fight will look like this. And then you can jump up and grab the orb. For Bomb Man stage, there isn't much to mention. We're gonna use the same strategies as in the basic route. And if there's anything, you could try to get closer to the orb during the boss fights. You can jump and grab the orb in the air. On the other hand, there are a lot of improvements to be done in Gutsman stage. And one of them is that we can skip the slingshot beam and use one of the conveyors instead. The difference here, the big difference, is that the conveyors is gonna be a part of this trick, and depending on how your start of the stage turns out, like if you take a lot of unintentional damage and damage boost here, the conveyor will have moved differently every time. But this is something you have to practice and experience and try different timings. But generally, when you move here, the drops are gonna be the big factor where the conveyors will be. So when you reach this cliff, you will at once start charging a beam, and as soon as it hits the edge, you can release it. So it's gonna look like this. And then you jump up and use the conveyor to place the next beam. And from here, we just do a beam walk all the way to the other side. Just like that. So if you were to take a lot of damage in the beginning here and have to like, oh shit, this wasn't like unintentional. So you see the conveyor, it's gonna be different, so you just have to adapt like that. It will all depend on what happens in the beginning. For the cliff beam, we're gonna use the exact same setup as we used in the basic route, with the addition of pushing the beams to the limit. We have to make them really long to be able to add a buffer at the end. So the visual cue I'm looking for is this black line here. When this area reaches the edge of the screen, that's when I do the buffer setup. So I'm gonna move to that position so you can see the visuals here. I'm gonna stand still. You can see Mega Man is just about to reach this platform here. The score is like in the middle of this pit here. I meant the health bar, and the score is like about in height with this pillar here. So you can, as always, pick a visual that you have an easy time tracking, and when you reach this position, you just press A, B, and right to place the beam, jump up, press left to zip, and then jump to wrap. Okay, so it's gonna look like this. Walking on the beam as far as we dare, and buffer, jump up, press left, and then jump. Here you can hold jump to make a smooth transition down the pit. There's one additional thing I can show you with this buffer in particular, and it is that you can skip the zip and do a wrap. If you keep walking until you see the edge of the screen, you can jump up and jump again. And the reason this works is because the screen is scrolled all the way. If you jump before the screen is scrolled all the way, you will die from this. So you would have to jump up and make sure that the whole edge of the right side is shown, and then you don't have to press left or anything. You just jump again and the screen will wrap. Just as with Fireman and Bombman, there's not much we can do to improve the actual guts fight, but we can grab the orb in the air, which would imply doing the infamous ass grab. So to do that, we have to jump off this ledge and grab the orb while doing the select pausing on Gutsman. So what I do is that I jump from in between the boulders and throw the bomb at the peak of the jump. Then I intentionally take the damage from the boulder without select pausing the knockback, and jump as soon as I gain control from the edge. And when I jump, I just hold I buffer the jump all the way and keep all my focus on Gutsman and his damage. So it's gonna look something like this. Full jump, shoot, damage, jump, pause, unpause, pause, and ass grab. In Wily 1, the main improvement will be beam management. So we're gonna do beam jumps to use less ammunition. Like here with the buffer, we're gonna use one less beam. And when you come to these spike jumps, you should be comfortable now with jumping over it without using a beam. Here you can save time by skipping the refills if you're comfortable with the amount of beams you have saved up. And on this screen, you can save a lot of time by doing beam jumps. Just like that. In Wily 2, there's a minor improvement to be done in the refights, and that is to locate yourself as close to the exit as possible when the fight ends. So to do that in the Cutman fight, you would simply wait for the health to go down to when he's one hit away from dying. I'm gonna like this and then move towards him and shoot him in the air. For Elec Man stage, we would also locate ourselves closer to the exit, and we do that by not using the select pause glitch, much like the normal fight. You face him, shoot once, face him, shoot another time, and then jump down. During the Wily 3 zip, you can get an extended zip into the boss room if you stop mashing just as you're about to enter this bigger room. And that will look like this. Then you end up right next to the box when the fight starts. When it comes to the bubble fight, there's actually a few things we can do to speed it up. And I'm gonna try to explain one thing we can do without risking anything. So when you're done fighting off the first 3 bubbles and you switch to Gutsman's weapons. So when you throw the first block, you can keep track of the last part. When it's coming out here and is just about to leave the screen, you can press shoot again. So when this side of the block leaves the screen, just when it's about to disappear fully from the screen, you can press shoot again. And if you hit the exact same frame that the last part of the block leaves the screen, you can get a dupe, like a duplicate of the block, like this. And if you're successful with this, it means you can keep these blocks here, or at least one of them. If you're lucky, this is like optional and nothing we're going for. So if this happens, it's great because it's a time gain in the sense that you're higher up. You can jump up and shoot the bubble if he spawns up here. You don't have to wait for him. So in that sense, it's a time gain for every dupe you get because you can keep the ground level here. And it works the exact same way when you're throwing the block to the left side. So instead you're watching this block going this way, and when the last part of the part leaves the screen here, that's when you press shoot again, like that. In Wily 4, we're not gonna change anything from the basic route other than that we're going into it with more confidence, alright? And so, we're at the end of the intermediate tutorial. This time, rather than introducing a lot of new tricks, we've focused on optimizing movement and the tricks we've already learned. I believe that building a strong foundation is the best way of learning Mega Man, and of course having fun while doing it. So with that being said, I hope you've had a lot of fun with learning the game so far, and that you keep having a lot of fun on your continued journey. Until next time, have an amazing time. Bye bye!